We are back in the black hole of real estate, and I've been getting some questions about what might go wrong when you're selling a home. And is there something or some sort of a guide that we can use to avoid some of those pitfalls and troubles along the way? This is your host, Ron Weiss-Sakarski, for the black hole of real estate. And yeah, the guide that I would give to any seller is to focus on the 3 or 4 things that really matter to start with, and then build some layers underneath it. So location, you can't change it, you can't fix it, but if you got a great location, then you need to get that up front and center. And if you have a less than perfect location, you have to compensate that in some other area. So location, condition, this is in the control of the owner. If it's in great condition, you win. If it's in less than great condition, you have some work to do. So you could provide some estimates for the work that might be done, and maybe you're just unsure of what colors to use if you're painting the interior, or the color of the countertops, or the type of flooring, or again, colors of flooring. And maybe you'd rather not guess with that. So you could overcome that by providing some estimates. Say, look, if you're looking to do some flooring, here is an estimate. Here is an estimate for painting the house, inside or out, or both, if those were needed. Maybe the HVAC is 10 years old but works just fine. You could provide an estimate for what it might cost, and have those presentations out there, or you don't have to do those. But if it's neat, if it's clean, and it has curb appeal, and you've done the landscaping and everything is put away, and you've gotten some of the furniture out of there and decluttered the home and made it look more spacious, sometimes that's enough. Now, marketing, super important. Choosing the right agent, if you're hiring an agent that has the best marketing program, is absolutely going to help you in any market, especially this one. And then, of course, price. If we're going to put anything out there, if you priced it way, way, way too high, you'll linger on the market for 30, 60, 90 days and really poison your own water with regard to getting the most amount of people interested early on in the process, where there might just be competition, but 60, 90 days down the road, no one's fighting over your house, unless you took a gigantic price reduction, which causes people to say, man, it's been out there for a long time. They just took this price reduction. What's going on? Hey, you know what? Must be something wrong with it. So those are the 3 or 4 things that right up front, I'm going to take a look at. Now, could you investigate the home yourself, or even hire a home inspection company? That might help. And then you could identify anything that might come up on a general home inspection that any buyer might be encountering. That would be important. And among that, the 4-point inspection at a minimum, that's the plumbing, heating, electrical, and roof system. If your plumbing's up to date, great. Electrical, up to date, great. HVAC, workable condition. Maybe it's been serviced. You have service records for that equipment, great. And then the roof. When was the last time it was replaced? Is there a wind mitigation report that you have provided to your insurance for a discount? How about providing the insurance paperwork? So here's the declaration page of the insurance that I have and the price. I think that would help a buyer have more certainty. You paid taxes. That's usually available, but I suppose you could say, here's what I had for property taxes. So all these things would absolutely help. Now, we mentioned inspection. How about pest control? Have you had a termite bond on the home? Maybe it makes sense to get one of those where it's transferrable to the new owner. Maybe not. Have you had regular pest control, monthly or quarterly or something like that? When's the last time the home was examined for these things? I think that's important. If you're in a flood zone area, then you may have what they call an elevation certificate. It tells where your home is compared to sea level. And of course, the survey, the property survey, that's the boundary lines. Help the buyer clearly see how big the property is. Those are all things that could incur expenses to buyer down the road. So if you wanted to get in front of a lot of those items, you could provide any or all of the things I've just mentioned to create an amazing package. Now think of your marketing if these things are available and the agent is in a position to convert that into documents that can be loaded into the MLS or provided as a package to any potential buyers. then I think that would also help you market the property. And it's a way to get in front of a lot of things. Now, what have I seen recently? Because hey, what have you seen that nobody would have thought of that could be a thing? Well, I am familiar with a home that, then let's be careful how we use the word flooding. Because it wasn't a storm that flooded out the house. It was a water line where there was a water purification system. So if you think of the water that's going, from the sink to the back of the refrigerator for ice cubes or just drinking water, that'd be one thing. But then also with that, there's a water purification system. Well, if you could imagine that the tubing that was attached to that broke free or busted and no one's around for a day or two, because that happens if a home is vacant. There's not somebody inspecting it 24 hours a day. Lo and behold, water line pops, water starts leaking on the floor, and it accumulates for a day or so. That could definitely go up the baseboards. It can certainly get into the drywall. Absolutely can affect the floors. You've got to have dryers, maybe replace flooring. So just a water line could present a problem. You could have the same thing with the one that's on the back of the refrigerator, but you could turn that valve off or just shut it off or just remove it and cap it off if the home's going to be vacant. Let's face it, nobody's making ice cubes. They're probably not getting a drink of water out of there. So it probably would be okay to disconnect it or shut it down. I think those are things that you can watch for. If there's something preventable, just as easy as, did you clean out your garage? Did you maybe clean the floors because it might smell like, do you have gasoline smell in there or fertilizer in there or just something out there that has a different aroma that people might enjoy? The cleanliness of the house. Did you hire a professional cleaner? Do a deep clean of the house to get it move-in ready. Grease the kids. Hey, listen, this home not only is a turnkey, it's already been cleaned. Save the receipt. Provide the name of a cleaning company if you like them. Document when the last time the place was cleaned. These to me are all things that might be interesting to the person that might be paying you top dollar for the house. Now keep in mind with the roof, if there's anything going up top, whether it's a satellite dish or solar, any place where there's a hole in there, are they all filled? Can you get somebody up there? How about the washer dryer and the lint trap? Is that something that's looked at? Because if there's too much lint in there and they go to test out the dryer, there's an automatic heat sensor in there. If it gets superheated, it might just shut down the dryer, and it might make the dryer look like it's not functioning properly, but really it's its own sensor shutting it down because there's too much heat going through there. So that absolutely could be an issue. Back to the pest control. If you're taking care of that inside and outside, but you get some rain, those tiny little ants that show up when it rains, that might be something to stay in front of as well. So watch your weather reports. Will somebody come into the house and track in water or dirt? If they go to the backyard and there's dirt back there and it's a rainy day when they're looking at it, will your house get tracked up? Maybe it doesn't bother that showing, that buyer at the showing, but the next person coming in sees footprints on the ground and you're right back to square one. So there's a lot, and I'm just dumping on you right now, things that could or might go wrong, and it goes way deeper than that. I've seen ceiling fans that were connected literally by a power cord into a junction box, but not properly connected, certainly not by an electrician, a DIY job. And so the solution, honest to God, the solution was, they just unplugged it from the outlet junction box where they just hardwired in without wire caps, its own cord system. So I would say make sure that, if you've had any licensed work done for plumbing or electrical heating, just save the receipts. If you had some work that was done unlicensed or without the proper permitting, that could come up to surprise you when they go to pull the lien search and any open permit search. If you had a roof put on but there was no permit pulled, it's like the roof never existed. You may have to pull a new permit and go through new inspections in order to have them approve the roof that was put on without the permit. Now, I'm not saying anybody would do that intentionally, but has it happened? Of course, because we come across places where there's no documentation that the roof was done with a permit. And sometimes maybe it was, but it's lost in the shuffle. But, it's on the burden of the owner of the property to demonstrate that and prove it. when the time comes to sell. So now, what would possibly be left as far as things that you may not be able to avoid or, well, maybe see? Hurricanes, high winds, wind-driven rain, finding its way through windows and doors underneath the sweeps and maybe the front door. Water's coming up underneath it. It could be that wind-driven rain absolutely affecting things. It could mess up the roof, and it could knock down trees. They might have to be taken down. They might have to be ground up right down to the stump. So that's another thing that could happen, whether it's before you go on the market or while it's on the market. Once you hit May, it's hurricane season. So that certainly could be another thing that you may want to just keep in mind. Now, I could probably go on for the next hour of, hey, here's all the things that might get you gotcha, right? But what I want to say is there's a lot that happens right now. So if your home isn't selling quickly or you're hopeful for a quick sale, I've given you just a tip of the iceberg of things that you might want to look out for to help you out. So when we get there, if you're wondering why your home isn't selling, maybe it's one of these things. That could be it. I go right back to what I said before. It's location, its condition, its marketing, and its price. And all the things I've mentioned here are secondary to the first few things that I just mentioned. But as I get through the first four, then you get to the second pile of things, and that could make the difference between getting an offer, getting a kind of good one, and a really, really good one, or quite possibly one above market because the home is just in perfect condition. I hope that helped you out with just some pointers, because so many people are going on the market. It's just finished up the tax time. This is the time you see the homes come on the market. So if you're among those that are heading that direction, just give this some thought. I hope that it helped. Definitely subscribe. And if you got a comment or a suggestion for another topic for the next show, just drop us a line. This is Ron Wojciechowski for the Black Hole of Real Estate.